probably going to be on the minority. A lot of people seem to get up in arms about Kenny Porter saying he stopped the fight because Shawn didn't prepare properly. Well, he told him the truth. They said beforehand, between them, privately, that this is the last fight. Well, they said that before the Spence fight, but Kenny is not one to try and make people happy with what he says. He speaks his mind. He was letting Shawn know, well, you didn't prepare properly. That's why I stopped it. He told him in public, because that way it will register more with Shawn. Yo, you didn't prep properly for this. So now it's time to retire. We got all your finances in order and everything. Now it's time to retire and pursue your other interests and goals. If you're going to come back, you better prep 100%. And Kenny probably ain't going to be there to watch his son potentially get hurt. Probably not going to be there if Shawn makes a comeback. But we'll see. There was nothing to hide. It was a boxing related matter. There was nothing to hide. This wasn't family business he put out on the street. And the thing is, Shawn even said it himself. Yeah, I didn't put myself through it like that in camp because he wanted to save some of himself for the fight. A lot of fighters, when they're aging, they look for alternative training methods to get through camp because of the wear and tear on their bodies. Now, whatever Shawn did, it's hard to say. It was an entertaining fight. But as far as his dad was concerned, this was not the commitment to camp that he's used to from Shawn. In private, they may have a deeper conversation about the stoppage, about the preparation, but it will remain between them. But Shawn's not going to come out in public and put his old man out there for you guys to cheer it on. Yeah, fuck Kenny. He's not going to do that. They have a very strong bond as father and son. The bigger question is why are you so mad and Shawn's not mad and he's the son? Why are you so mad? You know, maybe sometimes you younger dudes need to listen to the elders. Like Lou DiBella said, don't judge. Maybe his father knows better than you do. Maybe his father helped save his best self for the rest of his life. Don't judge, and congrats to Showtime's Shawn Porter on a truly memorable, exemplary career and ending his run when he is still whole and healthy. And Lou now and then drops the odd gem, and that was one of them. You know what I mean? Old school parents don't try and make you and your kids and your kids' friends like them necessarily. That's not their job. Their job is to separate all that from the job of parenting. What did Deontay Wilder say? Anyone trying to date his daughter's got to spar a couple of rounds with him. Now, he probably ain't going to carry that out to the letter. He may do, but I doubt he will. He's putting his daughter on notice, and anyone potentially looking to date her, he's putting them on notice that there'll be no nonsense here. Salute. You know, Kenny wanted Shawn to go college and not box professionally and put his health and well-being at risk. He wanted him to go college, so he's not a dad who pushed Shawn into the ring or anything like that so he could eat off Shawn. Shawn wanted to box professionally. Nas did the song about dads and daughters, and I believe his daughter was embarrassed about it because his daughter was getting to that age where dating guys was a priority in her life, and Nas was a bit paranoid because he knew what he was like as a young guy and he knew what a lot of his friends were like. And Nas embarrassed himself, I believe, when he made the record, but it was necessary to do it. It was necessary. This was the most effective way he could get a message to his daughter. You see, all this egg on your face shit that some of you are really concerned about means nothing. A lot of the people you think are your friends, even family members, are full of shit. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to make the ultimate decisions for either your life or your children or your family's lives. And who don't like it, they don't like it. And who thinks, oh, you're stupid, or it's embarrassing. Well, who gives a fuck what they think? It's like, you know, Will Smith. He's another one. He's always getting headlines these days. And I hear a lot of people talking about Will's a beta male and all this stuff here. Will lets you know what he wants you to know. He lets the public know what he wants the public to know. Anything he doesn't think you need to know, you don't know. When Will was young, he lost a fortune, blew millions, had nothing, made back that fortune. He has a family now. Yeah, they're eccentric. Yeah, they are a bit weird, if we're being honest. Yeah, his open relationship with his wife, it raises eyebrows. But how long has he been married? And how long have you been married? Both Will and Jada are trolls. But people will suck it all up because it makes people feel good to, yeah, look at that beta male. Oh, she's playing him. It makes you feel good. There might be struggle and turmoil in that family environment of theirs or in their marriage. It makes you feel good. And they're probably playing on that. Will Smith is living his life on his terms more than most of you will ever dream of being able to. And that's facts. Kenny was talking about riding camels in whatever exotic location with Sean, jumping out of airplanes, having car races at 120 miles an hour. I don't know if it was legal or not. Was that Speedway or just some street shit in Ohio? You do that with your old man? I never had that relationship with my dad. Maybe you have that. I don't have that. But hey, this young generation, you know it all, man. Don't worry, old man be talking total tosh. You invented the wheel. You know it all. Why is Sean such a well-adjusted, well-spoken young man? Doesn't seem frustrated with anything. That's because he had a very stimulating childhood with his dad. I can see that. Maybe Sean does a good job of masking what he's going through, but I don't believe he has a lot of the hang-ups that I have had, and I'm not going to blame it all on my dad. But, you know, I've got my fair share of issues. And is Kenny perfect? No. Look, most parents screw their kids up. I learned this by listening to how the elders at this placement I had when I used to do youth work when I was a kid in the suburbs, how they used to communicate amongst each other. I said most parents will screw their kids up, raising them, but it's all about damage and imitation, isn't it? Like some will be screwed up more than others, and some parents will pass on a lot of jewels to their kids. So even though they screwed them up, because, you know, look, if you're screwed up, you're going to pass on some of your screwed up ways to your kids. But some parents will screw their kids up more than others, and some will pass on a lot of jewels to their kids, so they have coping mechanisms to deal with their shit and other people's shit who they come by. I don't respect Bob Arum. All the shit that he talks about Crawford, about being able to buy expensive mansions if he wasn't investing in Crawford, all that shit that he bought out in the public that he shouldn't have bought out as Sean's promoter. Oh, I lost 100 grand on this failed pay-per-view event. All that shit, that loudmouth shit. How come he doesn't say it in Porter's presence? You know, at the post-fight presser. Oh, well, we're going to try and make the Josh Taylor fight. We're going to try and make the Errol Spence fight. I don't know if Terrence was smirking at one of the journalists, but he had this smirk on his face. And he just said, well, Bob couldn't deliver the Spence fight. If he couldn't deliver it when I was there, how's he going to deliver it when I'm not there? I'm going to make my own way. We're done. And the expression on Bob's face was classic. Now, I don't really think Bob cares. And I'm hoping that Bud can break the 50,000-60,000 he did against Postal and the borderline 200 he did against Khan. I'm hoping he can break them pay-per-view numbers there and as a free agent become an attraction. I don't see no reason why he can't do that. Bob talking about Terrence and Josh Taylor would be great in Britain. Would be a great fight to make in Britain. Well, unless Bob steps aside, that fight's not going to be made. I'm not sure if Terrence is going to want to do deals straight away with Bob. Maybe a year or so down the line that could still happen. But right now, I don't think he's going to want to do any deals with Bob. Errol Spence's reaction when Crawford stopped Porter was priceless. He told is it Blue Blood Sports that Sean's daddy stopped the fight too early. And he made a tweet that Sean shouldn't pay his daddy, laughing out loud. Basically, he wanted Sean to do his dirty work for him. What he wanted to happen was Sean to beat Porter, so Spence's win over Porter would appreciate. But he didn't get his way, and serves him right. You know, why do you want another fighter to do your dirty work for you? Spence needs to get his affairs in order and give us the fight that we really wanted initially, and that was him against Crawford, rather than Porter versus Crawford. We have to satisfy with Porter versus Crawford. And it's a legacy fight in hindsight because Terrence is the first to stop him. He's been in there with Spence, Garcia, Thurman, Brook. Only Terrence could stop him. Crawford did call out Spence, and if he's serious, the likelihood is that fight will take place on the PBC. Although he said he's going to make his own way, making his own way will suggest he's not going to sign a long-term contract with the PBC. But will he? How much does Spence want the fight? What did Porter say? He said Spence was not as tough as Crawford. He said the 12 rounds he went with Spence was not as tough as the fight with Crawford. That's what he said. I don't know what Spence is going to do. You know, he may even be forced to go into the ring when he's not 100% because egos are at stake here and the pressure is on. He's worked so hard to become a world champion and have the status that he has in boxing. He definitely knows what he wants to do, but is he capable? Is this retina injury going to hold him back? Is the inactivity going to hold him back? Is his mind right? I mean, he didn't show up at the Porter fight just to be a spectator. What was he saying at the Danny Garcia fight when Crawford turned up? I don't know why he turns up at my fights. Why is he turning up? Now you're turning up at Crawford's fights? So Crawford is in his head. Crawford is in his head. And there's not much more I can say, but Spence, it's your move. Some of these rappers need to fix up their bars, man, when they're going in to do a live performance. You know what I mean? Like, the guy who was rapping for Porter, I don't know. Terrence came out to some old school LL Cool J, I'm bad. That was working for me. Porter was a little busier first round. I thought Crawford took the second. In the third, a lot of people are claiming that Porter hurt Crawford, but it was actually a head clash that made Crawford stumble off balance from the exchange. 2-1 Crawford. At the end of the third, Crawford showed Sean, you want to play it rough, I'm going to show you how strong I am, and physically almost lifted him into the ropes. As a Terrence Crawford fan, I hope stylistically he gets to fight Virgil Ortiz because he'll get all the props from the hype that Ortiz fan base is going to bring and the media hype surrounding him. Boots Ennis, no, I want him to fight Virgil Ortiz because when Virgil finds out how strong Terrence is in there and that he's not going to be pushing him around like he probably thinks he'll be, I want to see how he reacts. I'm not really one for the pound for pound thing. All I know is Crawford is a tremendous fighter. Like, this wasn't necessarily his greatest performance, but his body punching, which a lot of people just totally ignore. They don't even look for body punches when they're looking at a fight or scoring the fight. They don't even acknowledge the art of body punching. You know, when you talk about qualities like timing, we're normally referring to the boxer's punch action. But I'm talking about the Matador move that Crawford done on Porter when he charged in and span him into the ring post head first. These are things that Errol Spence can't do. Virgil Ortiz can't do these things here. Can Boots Ennis do it? He looks like he has the potential, but what's his defense like? Would his defense improve enough to mount a serious challenge against a Bud Crawford? People talk about Bud's chin. I don't know if that's because he got touched by Kavaliauskas and dropped in what was just a flash knockdown, and the Gamboa fight where, you know, he did get staggered. But the truth is, Porter hurt Spence way more than what he hurt Crawford. I don't think he hurt Crawford. He had him inconvenienced a few times with some of the bum rush attacks, but there weren't no single punches that had Terrence's legs doing a dance or anything like that. There was one head clash, or was it a butt, that opened Terrence's right eye up. But that wasn't a punch. Rounds like the fourth round, they're hard to score because you got to look at Sean Porter's work rate against Bud's quality. Swing round, I guess. Fifth round. Porter was going to the body, landed a good left uppercut. Bud, he stayed southpaw for most of this fight and made good use of the jab. Not really snapping it in the fifth like that, but he was setting everything up from the jab. It was an important round in the fight because when Porter was trying to get on top of Bud and really turn the tide, Bud just showed his strength and just pushed Porter off, pushed him off about 3 or 4 times and ended the round throwing his straight shots. Hard round to score, but the way Crawford covered up and pushed him off when Sean was trying to swarm all over Terrence, I think that was one of the key moments of the fight, the fifth round. I think it's a combination of Crawford's movement and Sean beginning to lose his shape, but I've seen Sean in fights be way more effective with the jab. And I made a comment on Twitter that Sean can actually win this. If he can get his jab off a little more, he can win this fight because it's close, it's nip and tuck. Sean, he needed to get back on the front foot and he used his jab a lot more on the front foot. And people talk about Sean's roughhouse tactics, but it's actually his speed. He throws his punches very quickly and maybe sometimes he just can't get the trajectory but he's quick. And he ends up just landing cuffing punches and then mauling you a bit after he's through the combination. But it's very quick. 7th, you know, Porter doesn't jump on Crawford straight away. He takes his time coming forward. That gives Crawford the space to sidestep him again, the Matador move, and do a little pivot to avoid Shawn. Porter's having a good round, right? But he's falling apart. It's hard to see it because he's not doing too bad. But where's the upper body movement? Where's the bob and weave? He's walking straight in with his hands down because he's getting tired. Another hard round to score. Shawn does lose a lot of fights late on, but he normally has a lot of energy in his legs, a lot of movement, a lot of bounce. Not now. He's just driving himself on. He does land a good right hook, and it's a competitive round, but Terence is teeing off with the more accurate shots to body and head. 9th round. Porter is trying to get some bounce in his legs and move, and he's trying to move side to side. Terence gets more accurate as the fight goes on. Shawn needs to keep Terence off balance. That's why he's trying to get that side to side movement and the footwork going. Now, I know a lot of people are high on whatever welterweights, but I'm here to tell you now, any welterweight, you could even say historically, you get into the late rounds with Bud Crawford, you are vulnerable because his punch power retains from the first till late. His conditioning is phenomenal, it has to be said. You know, once again, Porter charges in, that check hook where he sidesteps him, does the little Matador move, and checks him from the southpaw stance with a right hook. What welterweights out there can do this? And Porter is falling apart because Bud is able to spin him again into the ropes. Porter cannot maintain that footwork and that side-to-side movement he was using at the start of the round. He can't maintain it. So now he's just jumping in, getting picked off. No jab, no punches in bunches, and if all these elements leave Porter's game, he's the proverbial sitting target. Now, I'm still in the 9th talking to you. This is why Kenny stopped the fight after the second knockdown in the 10th. You got to look before what is obvious that happened in the 10th. In the 9th, Bud is walking Porter down. Now, you tell me all the times you've seen Porter fight, who walks Shawn Porter down? I'm telling you this in hindsight because I've watched it again. But these are telltale signs that Shawn is not right. And Kenny would have known that more than I, you, or anybody. Like Shawn observed it himself post-fight, that he was walking in no defense. Crawford is snapping his head back with straight rights. You can't just look at the finish of the fight to tell you how we got to the outcome. Another thing you might have missed, at the end of the round, Shawn throws his right hand up, like frustrated. Seen that before in a Porter fight? Nope. I don't know, maybe if you go back to the Kell Brook or the Julio Diaz fight, Diaz, in my opinion, beat Shawn in the first fight. Shawn won the second fight. He cleaned it up. Now, with that said, a stoppage win for Bud wasn't necessarily on the cards. It looked like he was pulling away, but this is what makes the special fighters special. Bud starts the 10th, he's walking Shawn down, and then he walks Shawn onto a left-hand counter. Shawn is down, he's looking at the corner for advice when he's back up, but Bud and his combinations will not be denied. I think it's about a 4 or 6 punch combination culminating in a left hook that leaves Shawn on the floor, banging the canvas. We haven't seen this Shawn Porter before. We haven't seen him. He looks angry, he looks frustrated. He knows he can't beat Terence. His dad waves it off. People are saying it's a premature stoppage, but it really isn't. It really isn't in hindsight. Career-defining win for Terence Crawford. First man to stop Shawn. It was a good fight to watch. The haters are going to hate. Bud has a lot of haters, but when you're on top and people want to find reasons why they want to hate on you, it is what it is, you know what I mean? It's a great night for Bud. I mean, what is it that Bud has done wrong in his career? What is it he's done wrong in his career that would make you hate like that? So, the landscape of the welterweight division is reshaping itself. The PBC hierarchy, how does that stand now? Haven't seen Keith in the ring since when? July 2019, when he lost to Manny Pacquiao. Danny hasn't fought all year. since he lost to Errol Spence last December. And Spence hasn't fought since last year, December, when he beat Danny Garcia. Still has 2 scraps, though. There's Ugas, WBA champion. Jamal James got knocked off the other day. We have Butaev as the regular champion. A tournament will ensue. Will Ugas have any part of that? Or would he give up that belt and maybe challenge Errol Spence in a in-house PBC fight? I don't know. Al will want to keep both belts, I assume, so I don't know if he enters the tournament to narrow it down to one WBA belt at 147. Sean is retired after losing to Terence yesterday. Will Bud hook up with Al Heyman, because that's where the potential Danny Garcia fights are? Well, Danny's moving up to 154. That's what he said. But there's a few people there, isn't there, at the PBC? There's Ugas. He might be tied up with the tournament. Errol Spence. Will he return to the ring next year, coming off that retina injury and a whole lot of inactivity? Ring rust. I don't know if Keith Thurman is still fighting. They've got Jaron Ennis. There's names there. But, you know, what does Eddie Hearn really have to offer Terence Crawford? He's going to go to Eddie Hearn and basically have the same issues that the likes of Devin Haney and Demetrius Andrade have as African-American fighters trying to make deals with the PBC to get career-defining fights. Will that make any sense going to Eddie? Now, the way I see it, the PBC sent Sean Porter over to Top Rank ESPN. He lost. He's retired. He's no longer an asset or a resource. So, with the PBC, who once boasted a stronghold on the 147 class, they still have the major players there, but they're a little less formidable looking, in all truth. They do have 3 belts there, though. I don't think Al Heyman will try and tie Terence Crawford into a long-term contract there. I don't think he'll try and do that. Although he might have been stung by Canelo. He might only deal with top-of-the-range fighters if they're signing long-term contracts. I mean, that's 50 mil, 10 mil for Caleb, 40 for Canelo, and they can't retain Canelo's services. Are they going to allow Terence Crawford to be a free agent and beat the crap out of Yordanis, Ugas, or Spence, or any of the other PBC welterweights and then walk away? I forgot that Jaron Ennis is not actually PBC. He's not actually PBC. So there's a lot to chop up at 147. Yeah, I see Joe Gallagher at the weigh-in acting like a total idiot, trying to cause trouble while Dan Aziz was weighing in. And Hosea Burton looked terrible on the scales. He looked ill. To me, his body looked drawn and didn't look strong. And I recorded this before I saw the Tyson Fury video. He said the same thing. He said he looks weight drained. He's 6'4", trying to get down to 12 stone 7. He's 33. It's a little too much for him. Dan Aziz is now 15-0, and he's the new British champion tonight. I didn't realise he was 32 years of age. I really didn't. Hosea Burton is 33. He's now 26-3. And he looks shot. He looks shot in this fight here, man. Jab had nothing on it. He had nothing to keep Dan Aziz off. Aziz out-jabbed Hosea, and once that became a factor in the fight was all but lost. Hosea either was a little intimidated, or he's a little shocked, or he had a horrible camp trying to make the weight. Dan was gesturing to him to come forward and throw punches, which he shouldn't do really. But Dan had his elbows tucked in nicely, and with either hand, he was just landing body shots, head shots, and there was good head movement in there. Just dominated the fight. I was looking forward to this fight, but it was painfully one-sided. Painfully. There was one power jab in the 7th. It was like, bam, from Dan. Really hard jab, and it just rocked Hosea's whole body. Just shook him up. No matter what Hosea tried, Aziz always had a response. And after one sustained attack in the 7th, it was one big right uppercut. Hosea's nose was busted pretty badly. And he didn't want to know. I won't say it was a submission or a quit, but he didn't want to know no more, and the referee jumped in. Tyson Fury was in the crowd. That didn't help Hosea, not one bit. Joseph Parker was there, John Fury. The Furies are related to Hosea. Dan, he wears the retro boxing shorts. I think Marvin Hagler is one of his inspirations, the retro shorts and socks. And he's with MTK Global, as is Hosea Burton. And like I was talking yesterday, that fighters who are on a certain tax bracket after years of being on promotional rosters, they can possibly look forward to being free agents. But Dan, he's fought on Sky, he's fought on MTK cards, he's worked with the smaller hall promoters. He'll go anywhere where the action is. And he's relying on sponsors right now, which isn't a bad thing, you know what I mean? Like, luckily enough, he's good enough at this level that he can attract sponsors. And he was shouting out his sponsors. They made it easy for him to focus on his camp and do what he had to do. He had everything he needed accessible to him. Lee Eaton, who represents MTK, and Dan, he says, well, after this, we want to push on, and he wants a promotional deal. He isn't trying to be no free agent. He wants a promotional deal. He wants that stability right now, that a promoter's going to look after his fight dates, his matchmaking, his opponents, his opportunities. He wants a Frank Warren or a Ben Shalom or a Eddie Hearn to step in now. Now, his age may be going against him, where they may be hesitant about going too long-term with him. And if he does have world title aspirations, it has to happen soon. That promotional deal has to be struck ASAP. You know, like Richard Riakporhe, he's 31. Didn't realize he was that old, really. He fought, I'm not going to try and butcher the first name, but Duradola, for those more familiar with what I'm talking about. He's 41 years of age now, Nigerian cruiserweight. He challenged Makabu last year for that WBC cruiserweight strap. There was one left hook from Richard Riakporhe, and it caught the gloves, and that rocked Duradola across the ring. His punch resistance has been gone for a little while. Another vigorous attack later on in the round, and I'm not sure if anything landed. Well, I think there were some shots that landed cleanly before a couple more shots that were partially blocked, and he rocked back into the ropes again. Richard was working the jab, and you can see he was focused on not smothering his work so much as we've seen in the past. Third round, Richard was on his toes. Duradola, you know, it's not so much the head movement and the upper body movement, it's the feet are almost rooted in quicksand. Richard, you know, he kept moving, kept pot shotting, and then working off the jab, he found a very good right hand. I don't know how Duradola stayed up after shipping that right hand in the third. By the fourth, you have to say this is the most professional job I've seen Richard Riakporhe do. He's poised, he's balanced, he's throwing his jab correctly. He's not gassing, and see, this is what I'm saying. People talk about stamina. What it is technique is improving. He's getting into a rhythm. If you can get into a rhythm when you box, stamina is not the issue it once was. The more comfortable you are in the ring, the less stamina becomes an issue. And I learned that from sparring firsthand. Duradola, his body still looks in great shape, but his reflexes not really where they need to be. And Riakporhe's punch selection, that uppercut, his jab, etc., it's on point today, where it needs to be.
Single quality.
Duradola was an absolute mess, though. You know, like he rushed in to make an attack, and I don't know if Riakporhe done a matador move, but Duradola ended up on the canvas. He did land one good right at the start of the fourth, but it didn't trouble Richard at all. In the fifth, it looked like Riakporhe was about to throw a jab, turned it into a hook at the last minute, and Duradola ended up on the canvas. Very good punch. Riakporhe followed up. He didn't really land anything clean, and I wouldn't say Duradola was in any worse trouble than he was throughout the fight previously, but he was having no success at all, and the referee jumped in, 5th round stoppage for Riakporhe. Career best win. That's the best he's looked, but Duradola totally shot. The fight I'm waiting for Sky to make isn't really Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Williams. It's Mikel Lawal versus Richard Riakporhe. Lawal, he was on the card earlier today. He's 15-0. He's 26 years of age. He's 6'2". He has genuine power. Genuine power. There's a lot of flaws there. I'd actually say Riakporhe might be a bit more polished at this stage, but you can never be sure. Lawal perhaps stays in the pocket too much, gets hit with silly shots here and there. He can smother his work, but he can crack, man. He can crack. That was a serious knockout today. That has to be a contender for the best knockout in British boxing this year. And it just came out of the blue with his opponent, the transplanted Argentinian Italian, Leonardo Damian Brusis. Just when it appeared that he took Mikael Lawal's best, he got caught with that overhand right. Landed on the canvas in a heap. His legs just went all over the place and was involuntarily doing all types of movements, and it was over. Yo, Sky, make the match, man. Make the match. Make the match for next year. Lawal and Riakporhe. That's a great match. Put them in the same bill again. One tune-up apiece. And by spring, summer, that's a good match to go. It's a good match to go. Not pay-per-view, but it's a good match to go. A headliner.